how is this all sorting out? Are Republicans in a position where they might just say, well, maybe this wasn't such a good idea? We obviously wait to see where the prosecutor is taking this and ultimately how the judge himself responds to all of this. To former federal prosecutor Sidney Powell. Sidney, what do you think?
Neil, this is quite the spectacle. I think we expected that. I do think the Republican senators were well advised to have the prosecutor ask the questions because they were going to be made out to be the bad guys completely if they had done this themselves. And as I expected, the Democratic senators are making wonderful speeches to extol her virtues and courage in coming forward. One of the things that really concerns me, though, is how broad a definition we are using here of the term sexual assault. Most prosecutors and laws define that as being rape. She was far from being raped. She hasn't even alleged that any body part was exposed. She said he tried to take her clothes off, supposedly, but nothing came off, apparently. It was all a fumbled attempt to make out with a girl at a party, it sounds like. And there are just all kinds of problems with it, aside from the fact there's absolutely no corroboration. It's a recovered memory, which are suspect and difficult to begin with. But even if she had reported all of these facts at the time it happened, now 36 years ago, I see nothing that a prosecutor would have found to prosecute. If we start policing 17-year-old boys and 15-year-old girls at parties who try to make out with each other, we're going to have a big problem of overcriminalization.
You know, Sidney, she was the one who said, I believe I'm quoting correctly, I believe Brett Kavanaugh, was going to rape me. But to your point, there was no rape. There was no outright assault. But are the details getting lost in the overall appearance here of a woman who comes across, I should say, as credible enough to give some of the senators on that panel who might be on the fence some doubt?
Well, it will be interesting to see how many women actually find her credible. Frankly, I do not. The emotion that I'm seeing does not appear to me to be real at all, any more than it could be spawned from her being in this position to testify on national television with I don't know how many cameras literally in her face. About this, and you know, the shaky voice, to the extent it's there, could be nothing more than being in that sort of spotlight and situation. There were certainly no tears. There was certainly no description of anything any prosecutor that I know of would actually call a sexual assault. So if we take the names out of this and pretend like we're just talking about a 15-year-old boy and a 17-year-old boy and a 15-year-old girl, where do we want to draw the lines in terms of allowing people to assert criminal conduct in that kind of behavior? Frankly, I didn't even find her story credible about going up the stairs and all of a sudden being pushed from behind by somebody she didn't know was there. Why was she going upstairs in the first place?
Well,
that
you know,
doesn't
you just
make
read
any sense.
my next question in a way, and it gets back to this prosecutor asking the question. Very thorough, I understand that. But do you think Republicans might regret the way they're going about this? Obviously, they didn't want to look like a bunch of old white men badgering a woman who's making some serious charges against a guy who wants to sit on the Supreme Court. But in the line of Rachel Mitchell's questioning, and you're a great prosecutor, I'm certainly not. Law just intimidates me, period. But some obvious questions like the one you just raised, and to get to the point quicker. I know there's maybe a methodical nature to this, but Democratic senators are not deferring to Ms. Mitchell and allowing her to ask questions on their behalf. They're asking their own or stating their own and their opinion, and they would have sort of like the advantage for the moment. What do you think?
They do have that for the moment. I believe that will change as the questioner gets farther along in the process. She's already made a very good point about Ms. Ford not knowing, apparently, that the Senate committee was willing to come out to talk to her, to send people to her. And she's completely dispelled the notion that Ms. Ford was afraid to fly. Ms. Ford flies all the time.
Oh, no, I definitely saw where she was going there, Sidney. But one other thing I just wanted to get from you. You mentioned, this is going back to teenage years and that, there was no rape going on here. As you know, Judge Kavanaugh said this didn't even happen. Didn't even happen. Exactly. So what is he going to do now? He would have to say, as did Clarence Thomas when he was coming up after Anita Hill, no, 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 and no. Where does he go?
All he can do is say, I don't know what happened to her. I wasn't there. I mean, he's going to find himself saying that repeatedly, I'm sure. And I'm sure he's the kind of man who is very concerned for the welfare of other women. He has 2 adorable daughters. But all he can basically come down to is, I'm sorry she had some traumatic experience, but I wasn't there. It wasn't me. And there are scads of cases of wrongful identification, particularly when you're dealing with the issue of recovered memory, which is what she says she has here. I mean, there's a whole book about a misidentification called Picking Cotton, where a woman wrongly accused a man of raping her. There's a Duke Lacrosse rape case, which was reported at the time, and DNA even obtained, and they were indicted for something they didn't do. Another line we need to draw is how far back are we going to let people go into anyone's life to try to stir up something or make allegations, and how long are we going to let people come out with allegations against somebody that can't be corroborated and give them any credence at all?
You've been very patient, Sidney. Just one more question about how this ensues. It's obviously running way behind schedule here, 5-minute rules notwithstanding or whatever. Look, when Judge Kavanaugh arrives, and long after Dr. Ford has left, he will be questioned not only by this prosecutor, Rachel Mitchell, but most certainly by these Democratic senators who will not be so kind as they've been to the woman making the charges. So he could be in for double jeopardy, right?
I'm sure they're going to come at him with hammer and tong. I can't imagine the vicious nature of the questions he's getting ready to face.
But the prosecutor as well, right? She's going to try to get into the same issues. So he likely won't get a break.
He will not get a break. Wow. That much is for sure.
All right.
I really feel for him and his whole family, and I think a lot of the country does too. And we're seeing that there is absolutely no bottom to the depths the Democrats will go to try to regain power and block his appointment to the Supreme Court.
Sidney Powell, former federal prosecutor, very good read on what's going on right now.